kind of introducing yourself a little bit, obviously for like future clients that will be seeing this. I guess talk to us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, what you're doing right now for work, and then we'll kind of get into the Airbnb stuff here in a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Maura. I'm a new member of the Arbitrage Empire. I joined a couple months ago. Currently, I work in the healthcare industry. I've been a therapist myself for many years, and I've been looking at kind of exploring other opportunities for investments and real estate and just all sorts of different things I've been kind of exploring. And so I'm in the California area. So naturally, this is a very tough market just in general.
Mhm.
California is a
Sure.
challenging market in a lot of ways for real estate. So that's where I kind of started to explore what are some alternatives? What are some other people
Mhm.
doing? What are other parts of the country that might be worth investing. And then I
Yeah.
came across you guys, and
Hmm.
pieces started to kind of come together through learning about you guys.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's kind of what brought me to explore this. But just to kind of back up a little bit, I spent a lot of time trying to educate myself about different opportunities.
Mm.
To the point where I was kind of spinning my wheels and realized
Yeah.
in retrospect I kind of wasted valuable time, and time is money. So, kind of, joining up with you guys gave me a more focused path, and that was very
Yeah.
reassuring for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Thanks for that like introduction. I listen, I obviously don't want you to beat yourself up like the past is past because we're about today. And I know obviously you kind of just want to throw that in there to kind of just give a little bit of like
Of
your
course. Yeah.
experience prior to working with us. And I do appreciate that. I guess like as we kind of talk specific about your Airbnb arbitrage portfolio so far, again, I know we are like just getting started and you're like, okay, we got bigger goals to hit this year and then so on and so forth. But talk to me a little bit like where you are at currently. You don't have to get too specific of like the markets or anything, but maybe like the
Okay.
properties that you have. Um, and then we'll talk a little bit on like the experience of help wise that we have been helping you with pricing and things of that sort. But give me a little
Mhm.
bit of an introduction, like where you are at currently with your portfolio, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. So I currently have 2 units. So the way that the process worked for me, I was initially interested in one, and kind of as I was putting, timelines and looking at the process, the
Hmm.
opportunity presented itself through you guys for 2 units. And so I decided, you know what, if I'm gonna set up one, I might as well give it a try and just double it for two. And I'm really happy I did that.
Hmm.
Obviously there's a big learning curve in the beginning about what to do, but to be able to do it and
Sure.
replicate it twice, it really kind of started me off in a really strong
Mm.
trajectory that I'm quite happy
Yeah.
with. I went live in my 2 units at the end of January. So right now I
Hmm.
have the two units. One is a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and the second is a 1 bedroom, 1 bath,
Hmm.
located in the same general area of each other.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I went live at the end of January, and like right out of the gate, it was just bookings right away. I mean, I was very happy, naturally with that, but also kind of surprised, like, wow, this is really off to a very
Sure.
start.
Yeah.
So yeah, those 2 units, they're in like kind of a complex. And so they, again, just those are kind of the two. I like having the opportunity now for like guests who are booking to have either a two or a one. It
Yeah.
seems like both are popular for different reasons, different
Yeah.
groupings. But yeah, it's been nice to kind of start off with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I think you brought up a good point too. Of course, like I remember when we first had a conversation, like I was kind of asking you like your future goals, like next 6, 12 months. You're like, hey, obviously I am getting into this not to just do one property, like along so understanding how the business model works, how to run it, and then of course taking on units one by one. But you mentioned something super important that I do hear quite often, and obviously we do communicate this with a lot of our clients. Is like, yeah, starting with one property is valuable to learn the back end part of the business model and understand pricing and all these systems that go into it. But now starting with two units, now you have like double the data coming in with bookings to see, okay, what is our price ceiling? What is our price floor? But now kind of, I guess, 2xing the learning curve, right, of understanding how it works. So talk to me a little bit on that because you are a select few of people that are like, yeah, you know what? Instead of one, I'm going to do two, right? I'm going to do this. I wouldn't say like the right way, but like I'm also just going to speed ramp the process. So talk to me a little bit on like how that's maybe affected your learning curve in a positive way to maybe just kind of get to your goals a little bit faster. And again, I know we're just starting, but I want to kind of
Yeah.
hear your takeaway on that.
Yeah, like to your point, and that's right. I mean, when you start with the first unit, I mean, there's to be expected kind of that learning curve of setting up your systems,
Hmm.
creating the lists of what to buy, where to buy it from,
Yeah.
and just really how to time it all out to eventually, go live. So definitely there's a learning curve to it. But as I started the process, and definitely with the information that I was guided and provided from you guys, there's just such organization in the information that's provided up front
Yeah.
that really creates a nice structure through, what to buy, where to buy it from, what systems to
Hmm.
use, how to link them together. That as I was getting into it, I realized, well, there's really this would be very easy just to double and replicate
Yeah.
for a second unit. If I'm going to learn it for one, I might as well do it twice. And,
Sure.
as I started looking at the numbers too, I'm like, obviously this will kind of help bring me towards more of the long-term goals that I was hoping for, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit faster. So certainly, there's obviously financial investment up front.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be taking the time, especially with just like the practicality of going out to
Hmm.
the location where you're setting things up. If you're going to go out once and incur those, travel expenses and the
Yeah.
time it takes to get out there, just to do it and do it for two, it just kind of made sense. And to be honest, it wasn't
Yeah.
all that much harder. I mean, you order twice as many things, you
Yeah.
have a little extra time that you need to build into it. But I was kind
Hmm.
of surprised that, with setting up two, I was anticipating initially taking about a week's worth of time to set up one, but it was only an extra day or so or two
Yeah.
to add that second. So it just kind of made
Yeah.
sense, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like killing two birds with one stone, and that's kind of wanted to
Yeah.
ask you that. It's like, hey,
Right.
it's like more efficient. And I know, um, based off our previous conversation or our first conversation, I should say, was like you were looking into different business models of like, okay, you are in the California area now. It's like, what is maybe different sectors of real estate that you kind of can explore into that would allow you to hit these goals? Talk to me a little bit on like what other maybe specific vehicles or business models you were kind of weighing out, right,
Mhm.
alongside with Airbnb arbitrage that also maybe gave you the go ahead to be like, you know what, like, yeah, this is that vehicle that you need to begin with that will kind of be like that stepping stone to venture off into other things.
Right. Yeah. So, in kind of my process of exploring different options for real estate and investments,
Hmm.
obviously, naturally, just looking at investing in real estate, trying, buying a place, looking at the amount of, capital that you need up front for down payments
Yeah.
and all of that. So, you kind of start doing those numbers. Obviously, that's, a great long-term
Yeah.
goal, naturally. But looking at more
Totally.
the short term, other programs or different avenues that I was looking at, I've explored all sorts of things, including like investing in Section 8
Mhm.
properties, which, I spent quite a bit of time looking into that, and I do think it's a great option. It's just,
Yeah.
when you're looking at the amount to invest up front and kind of the
Hmm.
return, in the short term at least, there's more capital probably for a little less return on
Yeah.
investment initially. And so when I'm just looking at a timeline of trying to like be on a path
Yeah.
things can multiply a little bit quicker. That was for
Hmm.
me more enticing to look at like the Airbnb short-term
Yeah.
arbitrage kind of concept. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because, especially for me, like where I'm at too in my investing journey, and obviously I'm still scaling my arbitrage portfolio to this day, but now it's like using these different vehicles as stepping stones, right?
Right.
To purchasing short-term rentals if you do want to stay in the Airbnb game, or maybe diversifying your income to do Section 8, right? Or
Hmm.
maybe just long-term rentals to preserve wealth, right? There's all these different vehicles that they all work, right? They really do. But the conversation I have with people like yourself, right, that do have a really good career, is what are these stepping stones that we have to basically utilize in the correct sequence that's going to allow you to continue basically getting to your goals, right? Building wealth and preserving it, which is super important as well, alongside multiplying it, right? So that
Right.
is why I wanted to ask you that because I remember our first conversation. You're like looking into these different things. It's like, yeah, they all
Yeah.
work, but it's like, okay, based on your goals, what do we have to utilize first, second, and third, and so on and so forth, right? And that's super
Yeah.
important.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what's so exciting about this too, to be able to kind of multiply and scale with a program like this, and then that, being kind of a potential bridge or opportunity to then do more of like the,
Yeah.
investment and equity and that kind of thing that, would be a
Yeah.
great term opportunity too. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I
Yeah.
know obviously there's a good portion of back end systems that go involved to like running a successful Airbnb business as you're learning alongside with pricing, right? Which is like one of the biggest things I know Andrew harps on a lot is like
Sure.
pricing is more of an art than a science. And thankfully you have, someone like myself and Andrew, especially Andrew that is in Arizona as well, right?
Yeah.
Specifically knows the market like the back of his hand.
Yeah.
I guess talk to me where you feel like the best and uh most valuable guidance that we've given you for running those backend systems. Like, talk to me a little bit on your experience so far. Now that you have 2 units live and you're seeing exactly how the backend systems are being ran, talk to me a little bit on like, okay, where we've helped you specifically to really kind of like speed ramp this process.
Yeah, for sure. The original foundation, of course, is just kind of the learning modules that kind of allow you to, self-learn, go through the training and kind of absorb
Yeah,
all that. It's tons of information. I mean, naturally, until you're actually applying it out
yeah,
in the real world, it's, you're trying your best to absorb it, and it's great. So that was a great, starting point for me. But what I really have found super helpful, well, many things, but my one-on-one time that I have with my mentor. So
yeah,
work, once a week on a video call and have a meeting with my mentor who,
hmm,
prior to going live with my units, really gave me a lot of time and opportunity to kind of ask the questions that came up for me
yeah,
when I was learning the modules, kind of anticipating and planning for once I finally went live. So there was a lot of like, time leading up to the, actually pulling the trigger and going live once we found the units that just gave me
hmm,
a lot of confidence and reassurance to feel prepared so that the time finally
sure,
came. So that's great. But then also being able to, at the same time, hearing, the weekly, there are, as you guys do the weekly group learning calls with all the members,
yeah,
and it's, happens, you guys are doing it, gosh, what, 4+ times
yeah,
a
four
week?
times, yeah,
Yeah, and so that's really has been great for me too, just to hear, other people's experience, but what they're doing and hear like live, real examples of problems that they have. And then,
yeah,
when I'm later encountering the same thing, it's kind of, I'm remembering,
hmm,
"Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about this." But,
yeah,
certainly within those group calls, I mean, definitely, with Andrew's help too, having, um, very specific recommendations for pricing. So,
yeah,
with myself, with other members, being able to go live and like share screens and say,
hmm,
let's log into your Airbnb, let's log into, Price Labs, let's go through the dates,
yeah,
let's see what the market's, what Price Lab is suggesting, and then
hmm,
actually do that like side by
yeah,
side together has been great. So just to
yeah,
have like something so much more for me, I kind of t describe it as like hand holding. I kind of felt like I needed a little bit more of that in the beginning, and that was
yeah,
definitely reassuring. So just to have like those three different layers of learning
yeah,
opportunity is just for me has just been great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest part in that too is, and we probably touched on this on our first call, was not only is like us providing the information for you, right? That's not like the biggest, juiciest part of this business model or any business model, rather. It's more so about having the implementational part, right? Because
Right.
like,
Right.
all the information's out there for free with like technology,
Yeah.
ChatGPT nowadays,
Right.
YouTube, like all of it's for free out there,
Yeah.
right? But the biggest thing that we obviously need to implement here at the Arbitrage Empire is like building that certainty and confidence, right? Because you are starting something new, you are stepping into the unknown, right? So
Right.
obviously getting those properties for you, and then okay, hey, this is what we're doing with our pricing because this is why, right? And then this is the
Hmm.
results that we're getting because we did this, right? So we're
Yeah.
basically replicating and feeding you the beginning stage wins. So it's like, okay, you have the confidence to be like, let's say, hey, maybe a month from now or 3 months from now. It's like, yeah, I'm ready to take on my next property because you're seeing the other two on how well they're doing, right? You're building that
Yeah.
confidence in that process. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. And I'll kind of just say this because when I first started, like I had a mentor too, but things were a lot different like 6 years ago in the Airbnb space specifically. But
Okay.
yeah, obviously, it's very hard to begin with that level of certainty and confidence because these
Right.
expectations you haven't seen them yet, right? You haven't got them. So it's like, okay, how can we replicate that process in the beginning stage with someone that is starting this? And that's where like that boils into, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I can see, I can only, well, I can't actually imagine doing it, to be honest, totally on my own. I know you guys learned on your own out there and are kind of teaching from experience, but,
Mhm.
to have you and Andrew's like direct experience, especially about like the
Yeah,
dynamic pricing of things, right off the
sure.
bat going live, it's like getting bookings within, 12 hours and then seeing
Yeah,
it just kind of multiply through the month and getting
yeah,
bookings for weeks in advance. I mean, it's definitely reinforces like, wow, this process really does work. You guys really do know what you're talking about here. But yeah, I mean, otherwise it's kind of like going live and just kind of shooting in the dark and guessing on pricing and letting them sit there
yeah.
empty. I mean, my occupancy, again, I'm very new here, but just to have started out just a few months ago to see how high of an occupancy I have for
Mhm.
both units. Just the demand is
Yeah,
there. Granted, we're probably in a high season, but I think that dynamic pricing component that you guys teach and demonstrate and show
absolutely.
us is just so valuable, you know?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Well, listen, I do want to tell you this. Like, obviously, I'm super proud of like where you've came from originally, and like it's such a short amount of time. And again, I know it's like put one foot in front of the other, and I know you obviously got bigger goals throughout this year. And I did want to kind of have this conversation with you, to kind of also have you reflect on like how you were feeling before you even started working with us. Maybe the first day you joined, or maybe even a week before, right? Compared, to, okay, you were understanding this business model of how Airbnb arbitrage works. But now compared to today of hosting for like 3, 4 weeks, it's like
Right.
it's a completely different
Right.
experience, right? Of like having that
Yeah.
confidence and certainty alongside it. So I do
Oh,
want to
for
congratulate you because you obviously have been doing really well. And
Thank
also, even though we are implementing a lot of stuff for you, it is still a two-way street, right? You are still putting work in on your end to make these things work and applying what we're teaching you to get the results you're seeing now. So obviously give yourself a pat
you.
on the back. You're doing a
Well,
wonderful
thank you.
job. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure. And I'm
appreciate
super
that.
happy to see like obviously your results and how well you scale throughout this year. I guess alongside of that, and we'll kind of wrap this up here in a little bit. What would you kind of give, like maybe one piece of advice that you would tell, maybe even your past self before starting doing this, or maybe even someone that is going to be listening to this that's maybe on the fence of like, not too sure if this can work or if it will work. What kind of one piece of advice would you give to that person, or even maybe your past self, to give them that little nudge or that little confidence to be like, you know what, they can actually do this as well.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 2020. I mean, certainly if I were to look back on my own experience, I now recognize I was probably in a phase of analysis paralysis, as they say. You could just research something forever, and that's kind of,
Sure.
spinning the wheel. So I would just say, certainly do your research. I mean, that's going to give you the
Yeah.
confidence. But I think just starting and knowing that time is money and time is super valuable, I think it's an important lesson for me to just moving forward to kind of say, kind of go for it, make your
Yeah.
educated decisions, but don't kind of stand paralyzed and just let time pass because that's,
Yeah.
money lost right there,
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Love
Yeah,
that. Love that.
yeah,
Yeah, about taking action. Yeah, I hear
yeah,
you.
taking
All right.
action for
Yeah,
sure.
love it. Love it. Well, listen, um, I really appreciate you coming on here, and I obviously wanted to also, reconvene with you and obviously give you the extra pat on the back. I know you don't need it, but obviously, like
Oh, well,
throughout
thank
this year, I'm
you.
super excited to see where you will be,
I
and I know you're
appreciate
just getting
that.
started. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.